And we're back to talk with Kenan because of these rule changes. They pertain to not just myself, but Kenan and a lot of people here in South Florida.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. There's and you guys have been awesome because I have to tell you, through my channel and yours, a lot of people have become proactive, which is what we need to become.
We need people speaking out.
Absolutely, man.
The big problem is they're trying to take the animals like the green anacondas, the reticulated pythons, all these animals that you have to get a license for to prove that you're responsible in the state. They're trying to take those animals and put them into a section called prohibited species. Prohibited species means that only zoos can own these animals, and breeders are no longer a thing, and importation and exportation is no longer a thing. So why is that an issue? Snakes. 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 What is going on, beautiful people? Welcome back to my wildlife. I know what you're probably thinking, this is going to be a real funny episode, but no, it's not going to be a ooh kind of episode. It's more going to be like a oh kind of episode, because today we're talking about how Florida Fish and Wildlife is trying to change laws pertaining to permits and how we keep our animals here in the state. Now, I don't know, like 2 months ago, 3 months ago, we all teamed up together to make a video about talking about the new law changes. Florida Fish and Wildlife was taking conditional species like Burmese pythons, anacondas, reticulated pythons, these species that you need a license to own, inspections by Florida Fish and Wildlife, a whole bunch of stuff we're going to get into. You have to be very responsible, prove to the state, and work with the state to have the licenses to keep these animals, right? Those animals were randomly added to the ban for iguanas and tegus, and this was all sent to the main court here in Florida, and it wasn't fair because it affected a lot of people's businesses, and the court has no jurisdiction on what happens with the wildlife in the state. Florida Fish and Wildlife makes their own laws pertaining to the animals. So that law got overturned, and now Florida Fish and Wildlife has to work through their own system to be able to change the laws, which will take longer and involves the community, meaning online workshops taking our opinions on what we think about. So basically, this video is going to educate you guys about what's happening currently right now with conditional species here in Florida. And that, by conditional species, I mean green anacondas, reticulated pythons, amethystine pythons, also known as scrub pythons, Nile monitor lizards, a few species that are potential threats to the Florida Everglades. So basically, the only way you can own them is by having a snake-proof room, you have to have a snake-proof enclosure, you have to be inspected by Florida Fish and Wildlife, you have to have inventory of all your animals, so they are updated with everything you have and nothing's a secret, and you also have to give them pit tags to know which individual animal belongs to who, so if there's ever an escape, which would not happen obviously with all those security measures, those people would know exactly who that animal belongs to, and there's no misunderstanding at all. So with all these hoops, all these different obstacles you have to go through to be able to get this license, you're proving to yourself, or you're proving to the state that you're responsible enough to have these animals and you're doing the right thing. So myself, Kenan, and a lot of other people here in the state of Florida have this conditional species permit. So basically, I have my snake-proof enclosure right here, like this vision cage, and I keep it secured and locked, except for right now because I'm taking them out. And I have my beautiful young green anacondas, and these are educational ambassadors for their species. This is the heaviest snake on the planet. This is an animal that feeds on the largest rodent on the planet, the capybara, and also feeds on crocodilians down the Pantanal throughout South America. So beautiful animals like this little green anaconda are conditional species. Now, it's understandable that not everyone should own animals like a green anaconda, a snake that gets to be 18 feet long and could potentially eat a small person, but for the most part, they just like to eat their capybaras and crocodilians. Now, it makes sense that not everyone should have these animals as pets. They are not pets, obviously. They are educational ambassadors for their species. So if you have these animals, you need to have a good purpose. Some people breed them and supply other facilities with the animals. Some people are straight up in the business of having them on display, just like me. I have my green anacondas on display for people to check out. I use them as educational ambassadors. And some people have them on display too, but they only have them on display virtually on the camera for people to view. Because in times like this, COVID, not a lot of people can go to zoos and such. They learn from the internet, they learn from YouTube. This is the new age we're going into where a lot of education happens through streaming services and platforms like YouTube and Patreon and whatnot. So these animals are still very important for people to have with their licenses because we're using them as educational ambassadors. Now, the big problem is they're trying to take the animals like the green anacondas, the reticulated pythons, all these animals that you have to get a license for to prove that you're responsible to the state. They're trying to take those animals and put them into a section called prohibited species. Prohibited species means that only zoos can own these animals, And breeders are no longer a thing, and importation and exportation is no longer a thing. So why is that an issue? Well, the big issue is if you can't breed these animals, if you can't house them together, if you can't produce more young in the future, then the animals we have in captivity now eventually will die from old age. So we're going to lose our educational ambassadors in 15 to 20 something years, depending on how old your snake is. And that's a terrible world to live in if we can't continue to have the educational ambassadors we represent in captivity. So this is why it's such a big deal for us to reach out to you guys and talk to you about this current issue. We don't want to lose our ability to legally own these animals and work with the state. So what we want you guys to do is get onto this website, the Florida Fish and Wildlife website. There's 2 surveys, and then there's a comment section that you can leave a paragraph about your whole opinion based on everything you've read. And you can go there and let them know how you feel about this. Why is it so important for these people to still have their permits and use these animals for education? Let them know. Be respectful and give them your opinion on why this matters. Now, I'm not going to end this episode today here. I want to go meet up with Camp Kendall because he's another person out there that keeps conditional species like big constrictors, and he's going to be affected by law changes as well. So I think we should meet up with him. We should talk a little bit about this, and also add on that they're adding other species as well, certain turtle species that you guys might love. I know that I do. So let's go talk to Kenan and see what's going on. All right, beautiful people, we've made it over to Camp Kenan. Say what's going on at Kenan. What's up, beautiful? Can I hear you out there? Can I hear you out there? Can you hear us? Give some round of applause to Kenan. He's over here in this beautiful Burmese python enclosure that we featured on this channel before.
Yes.
And we're back to talk with Kenan because of these rule changes. They pertain to not just myself, but Kenan and
Right.
a lot of people here in South Florida.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. There's and you guys have been awesome because I have to tell you, through my channel and yours, a lot of people have become proactive, which is what we need to become.
We need people speaking out.
Absolutely, man. Because I know you guys are fans of Chandler and what he does and the education he provides you. I do the same thing. So basically, you know, what's happened in the interim since we last talked is, you might have mentioned this, but USARK Florida has overturned, with their lawyers, overturned that state legislature. So that's good news. But guess what? It's not over yet.
Yeah.
It's what it has done is it basically we believe that Fish and Wildlife, we're working with people from the state legislature of Florida to kind of do that law so it would make things easier for them because they are a government body, Fish and Wildlife, and they have to go through a certain set of procedures.
Yes.
And those procedures are where you guys can help out and where we've been very vocal.
And those are procedures that were skipped originally,
Correct.
which is why we ended up winning the first time.
Right.
Now they're taking the slower approach.
It's a
to
slower
these
approach.
workshops.
It's a slower approach, but it's the legal approach because the Constitution, as it's written in Florida, the Florida State Constitution, not the United States Constitution. The Florida Constitution says that Fish and Wildlife are the sole entity that is able to make laws pertaining to wildlife.
Yes.
So that's what's going on. So now they have to go through a bunch of workshops to get something in law. Now here's why it's a pain in the neck. Okay, guys like yourself, like me, about 10 years ago they implemented the conditional species permit or the program because obviously you guys have heard there's Burmese pythons in the Everglades, there's Nile monitors, there's definitely animals that don't belong here in Florida.
But we need a permit for them.
Correct.
I explained this in the first portion of the video that we have to go through tagging these animals, having an inventory, all these things that we have to work with the state.
And that's been working.
Yeah,
it's been really good.
Perfect.
There haven't been more damaging releases. And here's the truth: the reality is most of the Burmese pythons, most of the animals like iguanas and tegus that were released due to acts of God or hurricanes, things of that nature, where they hit breeding facilities. Not necessarily pet owners releasing them, although that does happen, but not enough to provide the amount of animals that are in the glades.
Yes.
And with the DNA studies they've done on those animals, they located them back to this one breeding facility in Homestead where they got loose. So that's the primary problem. What I want to see happen, Chandler, and you guys out there is, I'm all about responsible ownership. Obviously, this is a morph. This animal would not survive in the wild. It would have been picked off early on as an animal like that. we need to work with Fish and Wildlife. I love Fish and Wildlife. You've done a good job with them.
Of course.
I've worked with them, to take care of animals that were illegally imported into the state. So we work hand in hand.
Exactly. Us having this permit is working with the state.
Right.
It's keeping everyone informed in loop. There's no secrets.
Exactly.
So having this animal, secrets.
Hey, so I had Fish and Wildlife come over, which is a good thing. Since that the law was overturned, Fish and Wildlife is now going back and saying, okay, well, we have to issue these permits as we have been doing. So I'm getting my permit for this year, which is fantastic. They came, they inspected. The inspector's great. We got the animal. The animal is pit tagged. That number's been sent off to the state, so they know that that's my animal.
Yeah.
We have the signage of dangerous reptiles on just like you have to have on your
of course.
same thing. So it's been a program that's actually working. And
there's nothing you can hide. You have to send them inventory
Exactly.
every year. They know about every animal you own.
Exactly. I am not a breeder of these animals. I just need to have one on hand because you guys know, if you watch my channel, I like to educate people about them, show people how to build them. And what's been happening is now they're telling me that the commercial activity I've been involved in for the last 10 years since I've originally got the permit for this animal
doesn't count.
Doesn't count anymore.
And that's why I brought the viewers over to your place, because obviously down the road I want to do open to the public facility for private tours. But for you, this is
my
your
home.
This is your private dwelling, and you want to film and show people online, but you're not walking people through. You have a family, you have this whole place to take care of.
It's a lot going on, so I didn't want to have people just traipsing through. And the way the new laws for prohibited species were written, it was written that you have to have business hours, like 9 to 5, and you have to be open to the public for viewing. Well, that immediately causes a problem.
It weans you out. And
right.
Going from conditional to prohibited, like I said earlier in the video, it's a big difference. No sales, no keeping the animals in the same enclosure, and no importation, no exportation. Right. So no future bloodlines. Once she's gone, there's no more Burmese pythons for you to own.
It's funny. Listen, man, I mean, guys like Chandler and myself, and even those of you out there who one day perhaps want to do what we do, and I think take inspiration by what we do, this is your fight also. People out there, maybe you're in Michigan, maybe you're in Ohio. Listen, guys, I promise you that this will have a rippling effect throughout the entire United States and will affect your ability to keep and have personal pets, because number one, most of the animals are bred here in Florida because it's conducive to that industry and their biology. So a lot of these iguanas and tegus are produced here and then shipped to areas where you can have them as pets. You may want to become broadcasters, which is kind of what we are. I know it's kind of funny.
You might want to become an educator.
Exactly.
And by watching us, you want to do it the right way with permits. Everything is legitimate.
You know what? You can't have a traveling reptile show anymore. You can't go to schools anymore.
Before, the conditional reptile permit was supposed to be, you can have this permit so you can breed these animals, you can sell them, import, export, zoological display, traveling shows.
Right.
So you could have this animal here and then go do a school show for 1,000 kids.
How many of you guys have watched reptile shows come through your schools or
That's what I got
birthday
growing up.
parties?
People like Mark McCarthy.
Exactly.
And different presenters bringing wildlife to the school to let us interact.
It's a way that they can supplement their income. It's a way, look, it's important. The animals, are such a big part of our lives, and educating people is such a passion of ours that we need to be able to do that. I think we'll be doing a disservice to a lot of young people coming up that will not have the ability to be hands-on with these animals, to see, to fall in love and take that next step, that next generation of people that are going to carry the torch forward into the 21st, deeper into the 21st century.
Yeah, because eventually you and I are going to get old and stop doing videos.
Look at his beard's catching up to mine. I mean, it's happening.
I see a white hair. Do you see? Pluck
Oh,
it for
dude,
me.
I got
pluck it for me.
White hairs. I'd be stoked with white hairs. Mine are leaving the field, dude. But it's. Don't
give me a head. We'll match.
We'll match. It'll be good.
It'll be fun.
Anyway, what we're trying to say is, it's got to be an all hands on deck.
Yes.
We're not against Fish and Wildlife. We just want to. We want you guys to get involved. Write to them. Let them know that what you see here on YouTube is valuable for you. That these are animals that are worth saving, worth learning about. And what's the best solution towards this problem we're having is education, right?
Yes.
We teach people how to care for these animals, how not to release them in the wild and not fear them, I think people will become better stewards of the environment.
Exactly. If
And
we're
that's-
representing having permits properly, keeping these animals properly, look at this beautiful enclosure we're in right now.
Stoked.
Keeping these animals the proper way with the proper permits and not being a bad example for the community. Because of course, you and I both believe that a giant green anaconda shouldn't be just anyone's personal pet.
Absolutely not.
That it needs to be an educational ambassador, a part of a breeding program, because it's an animal that you need experience to work with,
Yeah.
and you got to prove to the state that you're capable of keeping this animal safely. So the conditional species permit is great,
It's
and
working
it works.
great.
We want it to stay like
Exactly. I'm happy to, it's a no-cost permit. I'm happy to pay $50, $100 a year for a permit, and that money then can go into the program for removing the snakes out of the Everglades, because none of us want to see the snakes there. We realize
Exactly.
that's a problem. But again, we can't make a blanket ban, because these are morphs. These are animals that they would never survive out there in the wild, or not for long. So why do a blanket ban? All it does is just gets people, good people,
Motivated to do something the wrong way, like getting a Burmese python illegally over state lines and driving it back.
Right.
People will do that.
They will
so
do
there
that.
will be a black market if there's a complete ban. We don't want especially.
Terrapins? Yes, terrapins. He's read
So,
my
yo,
mind.
I came here really because I would love to talk about the terrapin issue. They're trying to ban terrapins.
Yes,
Please,
diamondback
let's talk
terrapins.
about that.
Okay, so again, I work with a group called the Turtle Survival Alliance.
Yes, it's an
They
awesome
are
group.
a nonprofit organization. It's a conservation organization that they basically work with zoos, biologists, and then private keepers like myself. And they have target species of turtles, because I don't know if you guys know this, but turtles and tortoises are the #1 air-breathing vertebrate facing extinction today.
Oh, yeah.
More than half of the species of turtles and tortoises on Earth are in serious decline and are in danger. So what we do is, by partnering with them, in fact, let's get out of here. I'll show you some of the animals.
You got some terrapins?
Yeah, we can walk and talk. I don't have terrapins, but I have animals that are TSA animals, and I got to show you what the importance is of private keepers being able to house certain species of tortoises and turtles. Now, like I said, I don't have any terrapins.
Just point out how much locking you just did.
Did you?
Boom, 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 locked, and it's also in a locked room.
Right,
so
we're gonna go out here, right here. Come on out.
just to show how secure this
Yeah,
animal
so-
is,
so
and
now-
all the things he has to go through
I have
just
to
to
do
be able to
this.
have this python.
Okay.
That's what it
And
means
I'm
to
gonna-
have a conditional species permit.
Exactly. You gotta lock
Not
that.
to throw it
and
in
then
a fish
double
tank.
door.
So that's why it's so important. Look at all that stuff he just.
I have to do it, and that's fine. I'm willing to do that just to keep the privilege of owning the animals, So, okay, so you guys know turtles and tortoises, probably my first love, as reptiles. It was the
couldn't
first.
tell.
It was the
couldn't
first introduction. Yeah,
with all the turtles
It was
and
my
tortoises.
first introduction to reptiles, and I got sponsored for being a bike rider, but the greatest day for me was getting sponsored for turtles. And
Turtle Survival?
That's it, Turtle Survival Alliance. They came here, they inspected my place, they saw that I had the know-how, and that's how I got Darwin. Darwin is an animal that belongs to the Turtle Survival Alliance. She's an endangered Galapagos tortoise. She was donated to the TSA, but they didn't have a facility at the time to house her, so they contacted me and asked if I would foster her, and I absolutely will. Now, the problem with what's going on with Florida now, Fish and Wildlife are trying to ban private keeping of diamondback terrapins. Diamondback terrapins are an incredible species of brackish water turtle. In the United States, we call terrapins any turtle that lives in brackish water. Turtles live in fresh water, and of course tortoises are on land. It varies all over the world, but I don't want to go on and on. Basically, what they're saying is, as the rule is written now, one adult can own two terrapins per household. So if you have a wife that's interested in lizards, or if he and I got a place together, we could have 4 turtles. But as soon as they bred, guess what? We're no longer in compliance of the law.
And you gotta donate them.
You got to donate them or
Gift
get
them.
rid of them or whatever. Well, that's silly. The other silly thing is them banning them. They're trying to save an animal, but they're trying to save it from the black market by blanket banning and not
Which
working with
creates
people.
a black market.
Exactly. It's just going to drive the prices of those pretty turtles up. So I was on a virtual forum with Fish and Wildlife and a few other turtle enthusiasts, and I spoke on it, and they were curious to hear from us, which is what these forums are about and why they're so important when these rules come up. It's very important that we all let our voices be heard. There's so many people that love reptiles, but a lot of us aren't speaking up, and this is the first introduction, guys, to government for a lot of you.
Yeah.
You know, I used to be kind of guy like, I hate voting, I hate getting involved. If we don't get involved, the people that are in these administrative roles in these institutions are going to start making laws that are going to affect us without our voices being heard.
They keep taking pieces, and they'll keep taking more and
do.
more.
They
Basically, taking your hat
Yeah.
and then taking your shoe, and before you know, you're just butt naked, and they're taking everything from you.
And you're exposed. And
But
it's true. It's totally
true. Them starting with the yellow anacondas. Let's not
all
forget
these animals.
like
Now,
flat band.
how
on
does
yellow-
it help to stop people who know how to breed an animal, where the animal's safe and protected,
and being used for the right reasons? Education.
But here's what's exciting. I got a buddy, Chris Leone, from Garden State Turtle and Tortoise. He started with his wife the Terrapin Project in southern New Jersey, and he has released this year, through working with a state wildlife body, they work hand in hand, 200 baby terrapins.
That's amazing.
Were released back into the wild. You know what he does? Him and his wife, they have found poachers. They follow the poachers. They get their license plate number. They call Fish and Wildlife. They help make arrests. You know what else they do? They cruise the roads, find injured turtles or females that have been hit, take the eggs out of the dead female, incubate them, and release those offspring. These are private individuals. There are definitely a lot of passionate people out there. I know you guys are out there. You'd like to get involved. What good is...
It's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm being mean to nature.
I know it's getting you riled up. It's getting me riled up too.
I'm just saying, I think it's important that that private keepers let their voices be heard in a very mature and realistic way.
That's exactly what I was saying.
Yeah.
We got to be respectful. We got to write proper to these people and explain the reasoning why it's so important to have these animals and be able to educate people, be able to get these permits, be able to do all this stuff.
But beyond that, I want to see, like we do with the TSA, why can't we work with state institutions? Why can't maybe half the babies go into a Head Start program and the other half are allowed to be legally sold as pets?
Exactly.
This way, you're not taking from the wild and you're actually giving back. It's almost like a wildlife tax. Because at the end of the day, Chandler, no matter how many times they ban things, no matter how many times they say it's for conserving the species, it's going to take the private sector and the government to work together, because at the end of the day, a condo developer is going to come in with enough money. They're going to buy up the mangrove coastal areas where these animals live, and they're gone.
Yeah.
And now what do we do?
It just takes a couple resorts,
That's
hotels, whatever, to take up a whole entire coastline, destroy nesting habitat.
And then if we don't have animals to repatriate, they're gone forever. So it's got to be, to kind of quote a friend of mine, Tom Crutchfield, conservation through commercialization. There's got to be a give and take, and I'm here to speak on that. That's it. That's all I got.
So guys, if you want to help out, please go to the Florida Fish and Wildlife website, take those 2 surveys. There's also a comment section. You can leave a nice big paragraph, be respectful, and take the education that we've given you guys and just write to Florida Fish and Wildlife and clearly say that we don't believe this is the right way to do things. The permits are set up properly. We're working with each other. There's no need to weed out what we're able to do right now.
Right. Let's stop tying our hands and let's help the private sector
work together.
help these animals.
It's
Cool.
all about working together. And also, help USARK Florida and
That's
USARK, link below for them. They are fighting for our rights to keep these animals ethically, to these conservation events, to breed these animals in captivity, all these different things they fight for us. So please, if you can help them, they are a non-for-profit. You can donate to them, and they're in the courts fighting for our rights. So please, donate to the USARK Florida. I'll see you guys on the next one. Stay beautiful, stay safe, but most of all, just get on that website and give a little survey. Thank you.
Yes, Terrapin. He's read my mind.